Welcome back everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. This time it is going to be a 4v4 on SN Steelworks sent in by somebody on the Axis team. I have no idea who. So our players are going to be Bobo with unrecognizable symbols as the OKW. We're going to have Luciano Faretra as the Wehrmacht, Pussy Tank, interesting, as the Wehrmacht, and Asteron as the OKW. On the opposing side, we're gonna have V4OL exclamation point T asterisk dot FR slash slash. Yeah, thanks to USF. Dreamer, who built his base, or rather his special rifle command really close to his base. Interesting. I guess he's dreaming of a comfortable life. He's playing as the Soviets. Napasaran, obviously playing as the Soviets. And does he have any units? Right, yes, he does. And Obludek flanks the Brits. So the Brits are going to be the first one to see action, and this is not going to go very well for these infantry sections. At close range, these stern bios are going to tear them up, but however, the infantry section just kind of stoically runs through the stern piles and gets to the building. This is going to definitely increase their chances, but they're still surrounded, so at this point I feel like he should just retreat out of the way as quickly as possible. On the left flank, we're going to have Stern Pioneers, more of them. These guys never stop. Fighting some riflemen, and yeah, at close range with the support of more Folk Grenadiers, I'm thinking this is going to be another engagement won by the OKW, especially with the support of the MG42, which got into a very, very nice position in this sort of workshop area. This is going to be able to cover pretty much the entirety of the fuel plaza, I guess we can call it, with the trucks being the only heavy cover in the area. And of course, there's a road on the left side, so this is actually not a road where you have negative cover, so a bit of a bug. But still, it's going to be open ground where the riflemen can't really charge across. Going back to the right, we have the Sturmpiles already, forcing away the British, and getting kind of counterattacked by not only the Maxim but also the returning British squads. However, the Sturmpiles are going to be exchanged with an MG42. Excellent coordination coming from the Axis. I enjoy that move. However, I feel like the maximum range, that was funny, will be able to take out the MG42 because it's got 6 men, and when it's in a building against an MG42 in a building, the 6 men are just going to be able to continuously replace themselves on the gun, whereas the 4 are going to eventually run out. However, the MG42 decided to shoot at the infantry, so it wasn't even that close. Also, with the support of the mortar, the Allies are pushing up on the right. However, it just seems like a lot of units are coming in for the Axis, actually reinforcing the area, which means that they're going to be able to hold it. On the extreme right, we have another MG positioning itself in the tall granary building, and that's going to be quite nice because of the combat engineer being able to block the cap and recapture the point. So this Maxim is going to be able to cover that quite nicely. We have a nice push from the Americans and the Soviets coming in on the left. However, it doesn't really seem like they're going to be able to do too much this MG position. The rear echelons can't really do all that much damage, so rightfully Pussy Tank is actually ignoring them in favor of shooting at the Penal. The Penal is throwing a satchel. I'm not sure if Pussy Tank is actually noticing this, but this will mean probably the death of the MG42. Yep, it does. Building collapses with the MG42 in it, and there's going to be a very, very harsh loss for Pussy Tank, but he's just going to truck on and rebuild another one right where that last one came from. Probably the choice I would have taken as well. He needs that extra MG to deal with the amount of allied infantry that's going to be pouring through the gap in the left side of the map. So after the first few engagements, the Germans are in a pretty grim position. I mean, they've lost one of their fuel points. They're still holding on to the other fuel point, which is the only area outside their bases they're actually in a good position in, because they've lost the entirety of the flanks, and the center is kind of uncontested right now. So that's kind of a mistake from both teams. They should be really going after the center and getting some VPs on their way. However, the Allies are in a favorable position when it comes to VPs. They have 500 as opposed to 464, so that's quite nice for them. Nicely taking that big building is going to provide a lot of cover to these Penals. And with the penal spam and the rifle spam, I'm thinking that the Germans are really going to have to do something about this. Asteron especially, going for that Bergwerfer so close to the front line is not going to be good. All of his units are basically dying, and he does not have anything that can deal with the amount of infantry that's coming through. He should have definitely gone for some more machine guns And perhaps, what will Bobo do? Yes, he will go from Mechanized Regiment Headquarters. I feel like the Mechanized Regiment right now is really the key to the German success in both the left and right, because they need something like a Luke's very, very early on that can deal with all these riflemen. However, something like this MG42 is also quite nice. Pussy Tank pushing along with that MG42, doing a lot of damage to the riflemen, suppressing about everything. Another penal satchel charge goes into the battle group, but however that does not really do too much because of some weird issues, and also, well, it did do quite a lot of damage to the battle group. Mortar takes down the MG42, so was that the American mortar? Yes, it was an American mortar. I absolutely agree with Volta Far's choice of going for a mortar. He's also gone for an ambulance, which he has positioned very aggressively up to the front. He's very overconfident right now. I think that this ambulance sitting so close to the front line might be a little bit of danger, and he realizes this as well. I like that, and he pulls it back. He's gone for not only a rifle company, but also a captain here, so I'm guessing that we're going to see a Stuart out of him soon enough, along with then a bit of a tech up to the EZ8. On the right side, we have a huge amount of rifle sections. That's an interesting choice. I mean, a Blue Deck has the platoon command post. I'm not sure why he's not going for a rural engineer or even a sniper to provide some extra defenses against light vehicles with mines and the snare from the sniper, or even an AT gun outright, because he's really, really vulnerable right now. If the Axis should come out with a vehicle, which right now they aren't doing, they're going for a Stuka, artillery piece. I think that this is a mistake from Bobo. I would have gone for a Luke's. I mean, even with the penals being in the area. Oh no, actually there are no penals from No Pasaran. And that's just inviting a Luke's to come over and completely just thrash the entirety of the area. Oh, right, he went for the Campania, not the Special Rifle Command. That's okay. Very nice play from Bobo, managing to cut off the entirety of the right side with a couple of Volksgrenadiers, just sneakily going in and capturing 2 points, thus cutting off the munitions, which is quite fine for the Allies. However, I mean, it's, of course, British and Soviets, so early game, they don't really have a lot of things to spend the munitions on, because they don't really have early grenades, they don't really have, unless they upgrade AT grenades, they don't really have any of that. And, of course, the Soviets don't have any weapon upgrades, but the British generally tend to delay their weapon upgrades to a little bit later, although Obludek right now does have the weapon racks. So I'm not sure why he's not just retreating his rifle section horde and just going for a couple of Bren guns at his base. That would definitely increase the firepower of his infantry blob by, well, a pretty big magnitude. Right now, it seems like these two MGs are going to be stopping the entirety of that blob. And that's a flame half-track. Yeah, that's definitely what the Germans needed. Something like this. This is not going to be good for Obludek. He's instantly retreating, and he loses one squad. Not good. But I definitely enjoy that that flame half-track upgrade. Very strong for Luciano Faretra. And he's, right now, I think he would benefit a lot from going for something like a Panzer IV at this point. Just continuing to push his advantage when it comes to early game, mid-game vehicles. However, the flame half-track just runs a little bit too far and runs straight into an ambush from the AT gun. Nice positioning of the AT gun, by the way, from Obludek. Just slightly up the rise in a position where it could see basically the entire area where the flame half-track would come through if it were to chase down the infantry sections. And another infantry section is immediately replaced by Obludek. On the right, we see that Mr. No Pasaran is actually trying to fortify up the area. I think that this is a mistake overall, because he needs to be... he built a fuel cache, though. I think that that's a good choice. He needs to be pushing out and trying to secure the central area of the map along with his ally. Because if he just stands in the corner to the right, I mean, he secures a VP, sure, that's really good. But he also just secures a munitions point. Now with the fuel cache, he's got a bit more of an excuse. And something like this could happen. If you sit in one place for too long, you're just kind of giving your opponents a bit of a chance to see what you're doing and then take their time to react accordingly. Whereas if he was taking a little bit more of an aggressive approach, he would be keeping his opponents on their toes, not really knowing how to react. And of course, the the result is that Stuka got 18 kills in the first barrage, took out an AT gun and a mortar and a machine gun in the building, and destroyed the building. So right now, No Pasaran isn't going to be able to put his MG in any more buildings like that. And unfortunately, he also loses this AT gun, which might get stolen by these Folk Grenadiers if these infantry sections get the boot in the rear, the proverbial one, and they retreat. However, they might just be able to secure the entire area for freedom. At this point on the left side, we have just the usual happenings. Looks like the Allies are actually being pushed back a little bit, thanks to the support of not only Pussy Tank, but a couple of nicely vetted Folk Grenadiers. Wow, look at that. 5 veterancy already. That's pretty insane. What happened to them? They have 21 kills. I'm thinking that they managed to get a really good flame grenade at some point. Also, Pussy Tank going for the flame half-track as well. I definitely agree. I think that's a very, very strong little unit. At this point, with the front line kind of secure, so support gun is a good idea, because with the front line secure, the fighting is going to be shifting towards a more attrition-based combat, where the support gun is definitely going to provide an edge to the Germans with that extra range compared to the American mortar. And in fact, it looks like the American mortar actually went down in that skirmish, so it's also going to lose the veterancy from what the kills that it got earlier. So pretty good position for the Germans overall. They're managing to recapture the left side fuel, and they should also try to make a move for the VPs on both sides, although the right side is completely sort of secured by the infantry section spam of a blue deck. It's still overall a bit of a worth it move. I feel like at this point, Germans have secured their immediate front line, their immediate area next to the base. They don't really have the danger of getting attacked in the reinforcement points anymore. So what they should be doing is trying to strike out and get as much territory as possible, trying to avoid the mistake that No Pasaran made. No Pasaran went for a Su-76, so I think it's about high time to check out the teching. So we have a blue deck going for the company command post. He's going to be able to get out some Cromwell soon enough. That's what I would do if I was facing a Stuka. To try to hunt it down, a Cromwell would be a pretty excellent choice. Right now, his infantry is getting a little bit thrashed because it was blobbing just way too hard. And whoa, that dance. Did you see that? So that MG gunner was just doing the dance. He was fidget spinning. Anyway, so No Pasaran, of course, has the tier 3 because he has that Su-76. He's also gone for a Su half-track. Interesting choice. With the lack of AT that the Germans enjoy, quote-unquote, I feel like it's okay. It's an okay choice. He needs to be very careful with it, though, and it's going to also be useful later on against any kind of German aircraft. We have, for Dreamer, just Su-76s, so of course tier 3. Looks like he's taken some fire with his first Su-76. I haven't seen Dreamer in a long time. He's gotten a couple of penals. They're all kind of smashed up, and he went for Shock Rifle Frontline. So later on, we're going to see an IS-2 out of him, and that's going to be quite danger to the Germans on the left side. However, it's going to take a long time, so we're going to need to see how he handles the situation in the meantime. And Volt FR, of course, he's gone for the Major. I think he might be waiting for a Easy 8. I mean, he's upgrading his Rifleman. He's got both Lieutenant and Captain, but he hasn't actually built any units out of those tiers. So he's definitely going for some Easy 8s, and he's just going to be waiting for that at about 2 or 3 more minutes. We might see more of him. At this point, he's just kind of consolidating, but not really doing anything too useful. Whereas the Germans, we have Asteron. Of course, he's got a truck that's setting up the Schwer Panzer quarters in the area. That's kind of okay. There goes the Flame Half-Track. Very nicely done by the Riflemen with the AT grenades and the bazookas upgraded, also with the Captain support. Asteron doesn't really have all that much of a force. I think he might be waiting for a KT, or he might be going for a Panther. At this point, he's got a lot of fuel. He could go for both. I would go for a KT if I was him, because with Fallschirmjäger Doctrine, he cannot go for a Sturm Tiger or a Jagdtiger. And I feel like with the amount of infantry that the Allies are fielding, a King Tiger would definitely be necessary as opposed to a Panther. Panther would just be a little bit too outclassed by the swarms of infantry with anti-tank weapons. For Pussy Tank, we see that he's gone for Jaeger armor, or fortified armor, the other one. So it's got the elephant later on, and also the Panzer IV command tank. But he's also gone for tier 4, so he's going for a Panzerwerfer. Panzerwerfer, which hasn't fired any barrages yet, so this is still kind of a trump card. He's got an ace up his sleeve, and that could be quite devastating if the first barrage does well. Going further, Luciano Faretra, we have... Yeah, no, blobbing really isn't working out for the Allies right now. It could be working out a little bit better, but nah, it really isn't. So Luciano Faretra doesn't really have that impressive of a force, a bit like Asteron. And I feel like that's because he's waiting for the Tiger. Although he's got a support armor core, he probably has had this for a long time, and he hasn't brought anything out of it. Let's see the construction. So the support armored core was at 1111, and it's 1538. So yeah, he hasn't really built anything out of that, as we see a Centaur actually. Hasn't really built anything out of his support armor core, despite the fact that he's got all that fuel, and he's going for a Stug. Why? I hate Stugs. Anyway, I think he might have been waiting to see what the British were going to go for, and if, for example, it was a Cromwell, he would have gone for a P4. If it was a Comet, he would have waited for a Panther. And if it was a Centaur, he's going for a Stug, although I still feel like Stug is not the best decision. He needs the extra versatility of other vehicles if he were to actually deal with the British. I mean, the British have a pretty strong contingent of infantry, 2 Royal Engineers, which might get upgraded with Piats, of course. So you're going to need to be able to field a vehicle that can defend itself from those a little bit better than a Stug can. And even then, Nopasaran has been fielding extra units as well. He's gone for Bektek. He's backticked to Special Rifle Command to get some extra penals, and at this point he's going for a Mechanized Armor Compagnia. I'm not sure why though. I mean, he's got the KV-2 from Soviet Industry, so he might have just waited for the Soviet Industry and gotten out tier 3 vehicles, but he might want to go for Katyushas in the meantime. Katyushas or T-34-76s. Of those, I think Katyushas is the more likely and also the best option, because with the T-34-76, with things like Panthers on the field, yeah, that's not going to be able to do too much. Although the T-34 would be better at hunting for the Stuka, which right now has 29 kills. It's been devastating the British blobs, and also the AT guns of the Allies on the right side, and it's proving pretty much a big nuisance. So the Allies absolutely need to get something in order to deal with this threat. And they could either do it with counter batteries or with medium armor, as the British went for the Centaur, which was, in my opinion, a huge mistake instead of a Cromwell. Really, that job is going to be falling on the Soviet player, Nopasaran, and I'm not sure what kind of plan he's got in mind to deal with the the Stuka, if he's got any. And I feel like he doesn't have any, which is a big, big problem. It's going to bite the Allies in the rear and the right side. Interestingly enough, I mean, both sides are kind of playing 2v2 plus 2v2. As you can see right now, we have Pussy Tank and Asteron facing off against Dreamer and Volt. Then Obludek and Nopasaran versus Bobo and Pussy Tank. No, not Pussy Tank, Luciano Faretra. And that's kind of not good from both sides, because, I mean, the first side to actually divert some of their forces from their side and try to invest the other side and flank them is gonna have a huge advantage of surprise, actually. So I feel like one of these players really needs to take a bit of initiative and do that, because I feel like it could lead to his team having a huge advantage due to it. Looks like the Stug is going to go down to the AT gunfire. No, because of the wall. Build the wall, the Germans said, and it worked, because that 6-pounder really couldn't fire through there. I mean, it could have tried to attack round, but it would have just the round would have just disappeared on the wall itself. Centaur using the wall as well to just kind of bully around these Volksgrenadiers without really these Reckenbrevers or other type of threats dealing with it. And it looks like the Americans are actually charging in and doing a pretty huge attack with their infantry, popping a smoke round on the Schwerpanzer, but they're going to be forced away by just the sight of this the Panzerwerfer, which could have dealt a pretty substantial blow to that blob. That's actually a huge blob. Look at that. 4 rifleman squads. Yeah, 4 rifleman squads, 1 captain and 1 lieutenant. That's 6 infantries in 1 spot. Not the best possible thing to do. I mean, this is very, very vulnerable, especially if the Germans kind of find out where they're retreating. They don't really know right now. But if they find out the retreat point, they can use, for example, 1 Panzerwerfer, like the one that's being built right now, that's not going to be veteraned up, to scare all the blob off, and then have the 2nd Panzerwerfer fire into the retreat point as they're, going back, and that would be not pleasant for the blob. It would definitely lead to a lot of tears of salty, salty joy. Right now, it seems like the right side is still just kind of even. We have a nice Panzerwerfer barrage going to take out the 2 AT guns from the Brits, so that's pretty good, taking out the veterancy, but the Panzerwerfer goes down from what? From the AT gun. So that's... wait, no, that was not the AT gun. What killed that Panzerwerfer? Might have been just small arms fire? Yeah, I think it was small arms fire. Anyway, Valentine. So Blue Deck went for artillery doctrine, and he went for a Valentine. Decent vehicle right now, because, yeah, he's going to use the map hacks right now. So if we check out the Fog of War, we see that he's essentially seeing what's in the Fog of War for the Germans, and that's, of course, a pretty huge advantage for him. The problem of the Valentine, as opposed to the other map hacks vehicle, which is, of course, the infrared half-track from the OKW, if we can find an OKW. Wait, is that a Su-76? Yeah. If I can find an OKW with... wait, it's Battle Group, right? Yeah, it's Battle Group. With that, 200 manpower and 5 fuel. Wow, that's a cool skin. Deutschland. That Panther might be charging up a little bit too far. Yeah, 3 Su-76s, a little bit too much for that Panther to deal with, I feel like. Thankfully, these pipes are actually blocking the fire of this Su-76, but the Su-76 doesn't really care, charges through and trucks along, takes a shot, deals 1 in return, Panther's going to escape. Su-76 is going to escape, everybody's going to be happy, and everybody's going to be disappointed. Anyway, the cost of the Valentine, as opposed to that 200 manpower 5 fuel, is 300 manpower and 80 fuel, which is pretty much because the Valentine is also sort of usable as a light tank. I mean, it is pretty much just your standard light tank, right? So if you're thinking about the price of your standard light tank, we're going to be looking at around 70 fuel, like a T-70 or a Stuart, or just a little slightly less for the Lukes. I think it's like 65. I'm bad at remembering these numbers. I think that's 65? No, 60. So overall, you're paying a little tiny bit of extra for the ability to have map hacks. The problem is, I mean, this unit comes in at about like 6 CPs, I think. 6 or 7 CPs. So by the time you actually get 6 or 7 CPs, you're not going to be really needing a light tank. So you're going to be buying it pretty much 100% of the time for the map hacks, at least if you're smart. And yeah, you're going to be paying it some pretty hefty sums, you know, for just a map hack vehicle, considering that the only other map hack vehicle that's comparable, you know, the infrared half-track, is pretty much, well, what would you call that, 1/16 of the fuel cost, and I guess 2/3 of the manpower cost. So not overall the best trade. Of course, it does have the advantage that it can just turn off observation mode and do that, fire on enemy vehicles that are approaching. And it's also really, really good against infantry. Not bad at all against infantry, in fact. So it can defend itself against infantry. It's, of course, got better armor than the infrared half-track. Overall, not the worst vehicle, but it's got some issues. So it's just kind of a little bit of a... too much of a jack of all trades, I guess, considering the weird combination of roles that it kind of fulfills. So 2 Panthers right now for Bobo. They don't have any identity crisis at all about their role. They're just coming in and plowing through all the British armor. Su-85 and Su-86, Su-76 and Su-85, kind of forming the cousin slash, I don't know, brotherly combination of the Soviets. And right now, not enough to defend the Valentine, though. So the Valentine falls victim to the Stug, and pretty much nothing else. The two Panthers are still kind of ready and waiting on the side wings to charge in, and it looks like the Allies are going to be losing pretty much their entire force in the area because they're not really using their infantry well. I mean, they've got their infantry over here, and it's not able to fire at the enemy. They also really lack in terms of anti-infantry, so what's kind of happened is that the German infantry was just able to charge in and spot the Allied vehicles for the German tanks in the rear. And we have Luciano Faretta coming in with the Tiger, so the Tiger is going to be quite good against the Allied troops as well. And right now, it seems like the Brits are coming back into the area, and they find, oh no, that's a Tiger. So, of course, we have the lovely home and satchel charge from the Penals. Gonna damage the engine of the Tiger, but that's not gonna be enough because the Tiger's already got to where it needs to be. However, it's in a little bit of trouble, a tiny spot of trouble, I would say. 2 AT guns firing on it. If the Su-85 can keep up and use the focus sight on it, they can probably finish it off, but with the 2 Panthers in the area, it would be very, very risky. In fact, the Panthers are just kind of trying to flank around, but they see the AT guns inside it. It's not a good idea. In fact, they're gonna try to retreat, just kind of screening away for the Tiger as much as possible. The Su-85 is very, very heavily damaged, and if it continues to chase, it's not gonna be good for it. Yeah, Stuka Barrage doesn't really do too much, but that's kind of not the worst. Stuka's already up to 47 kills, though. I haven't really been paying too much attention to it, and that's, yeah, it's been doing some quite good work. Right now, the only problem for the Germans, I mean, they're winning the engagements, and, I mean, they're kind of even on the left side, it seems, although with 2 Panzerwerfers and a support gun, they have the artillery advantage, so if lulls in the action like this happen, the more waiting there is, the much more they're going to be able to use their artillery to get advantage. And that's, of course, a pretty big plus for them on the left flank. And also they have an elephant in the area, which, I mean, it's not the best area for an elephant. There's a lot of line of sight blockers. Like, he's not going to be able to see all that much with the elephant. And if the enemy uses the buildings, which are pretty abundant on the left side of Essen Steelworks, of course, to their advantage, they can just flank around the elephant, get behind it, and it's going to have a really hard time keeping up. But overall, they're, I feel like, winning all the engagements, and they have a lot of advantages going for them, as I already said. But for some reason, they're not really going for the VPs. So the Allies have a VP advantage still when it comes to that. They have 390 VPs when it comes to that game, and they have 271s for their opponent. So 271 VPs for the Germans. It's still a little bit of a decent amount, but there should be worrying at this point, because what if the Allies were to, come back, have a big resurgence? What if Volt were to, wake up and start to build some Easy 8s? Because right now he's really throwing the ball on the left side. He's got his infantry blob, but the infantry blob is just kind of feeding experience to the Panzerwerfers, and it can't really do too much. I mean, 27 kills, 13 kills, that's 40 kills. 40 kills that were probably most of them on these riflemen, and that's kind of also suppressing the rifleman blob because it's constantly having to retreat from Panzerwerfer barrages, thus making it unable to actually fight. And at this point, that's kind of devastating because that's 100% of the combat power for the Allies. Well, not for the Allies, but for the Americans in the area. And this Panther's going to die. Panther's going to die. On the right side, we have a bit of a push coming in from Firefly. So Firefly trying to get some pot shots off on that Tiger. Probably a good choice, however, it's in a very exposed position. If the 2 Panthers from Bobo, where are the Panthers? The Panthers are here, actually on the left side, so kind of lucky for the Firefly that Bobo decided to help out on the left side. But the 2 Panthers on the left side, along with the more Panthers that the Axis are feeling. There's 2 more Panthers, and then there's another Panther from Pussy Tank, I remember that. And also the Elephant. Yeah, 5 Panthers versus 4 Su-76s. Not going to be a good fight where I'd want to be an Su-76 driver or any crewman, in fact. Overall, it just seems like the Allies on this side are just going to get completely overrun if the Axis were to just run their vehicles in or drive their vehicles in. But it looks like they're going to be a little bit hesitant. They're going to allow the Su-76s to escape. In fact, they're going to push in through with the Panther only after a nice flank from these Grenadiers takes out one of the Su-76s and spots the other ones, just kind of giving this Panther the go-ahead, the green light to charge in without any opposition. In the meantime, the Panthers from Bobo are doubling back around to the right side. Of course, it looks like there's a bit of a damaged engine Sherman Firefly that they could try to go after. However, there is a couple of Soviet tank destroyers which right now aren't really in the best of positions, but the Panthers are also not in a very good position at all to deal with them. They're just kind of moving along and exposing their rear armor. Of course, they might try to flank around and try to go along this road and perhaps try to turn around with this gap and get behind the Soviets, but they might just, want to repair first, because of course that would be the safer and better move to do right now. Especially with the Stuka. Stuka fired on the center, actually on the Soviet tank destroyers on the last known position, but not really hitting them at all. So the Axis have a good advantage on the left. They managed to capture the left side VP, they managed to capture the munitions point, and also they're keeping the fuel under their control. The center has just been kind of sneak capped by the Allies, but overall it just kind of seems also in a naturally German inclined area. They just need to send some forces to actually capture the point. And so the possibility of a triple cap is very much in the air tonight. Oh lord. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. It's a Panzerwerfer barrage. So with the artillery superiority and the superiority in medium tanks, the Germans are really just taking the field. There's not much that the Allied infantry blobs can do when there's artillery that's being sort of targeted correctly and kind of alternated well. That's just kind of pounding them every time they put their infantry in. That's because they're blobbing. I mean, really, if they were to split around their forces a little bit more, they would be able to keep at least some of their forces in the field after an artillery barrage, and that would mean that they would, be able to get some fighting in and map control. But as it stands right now, the Axis infantry kind of just has the field to their own, fighting just the little scraps of Allied infantry that survive the artillery barrages, and that's of course kind of bad for the for the Allied map control, and it's of course even worse for their fighting ability because their vehicles are vulnerable to the Axis infantry coming in with Panzerfaust, etc., etc. That Tiger is, however, dead. Good usage of the tulips, of course. Right now, there's a KV-2 on this side, but it looks like the KV-2 is still not using the firing position mode. It needs to find a good position and, get it working. Because, of course, if it does not use the firing positions, it is just a kind of a bad, I guess, broom bear. It's an expensive broom bear with a turret. Because when the firing positions are on, it just fires so much faster and is able to deal a lot more damage to the Axis infantry because of it. And overall, it can also hit a much wider range. So it becomes kind of a mobile turret of doom, even though it's, it's stationary when it uses the firing positions. You can move it around. It becomes a bit of a turret that you can use to, just kind of plop down on an area and act as a defensive emplacement that can essentially deal with any target, because the KV-2 is pretty decent against both infantry and vehicles, but not if you do this. I mean, if you do this, again, it's kind of a expensive broom bear. You might get lucky with it, or you might not, but if it wasn't the firing positions, it would have a much quicker rate of fire. So you could, just kind of take the RNG element out of it entirely, because you're just firing so quickly that it doesn't really matter. At some point, you're going to get lucky and destroy an entire squad. So that's kind of what I liked about the KV-2. KV-2 is my favorite tank in Company of Heroes 2, and I just kind of hate to see it used incorrectly like right now. And yeah, like right now, kind of exemplified by his Panthers. Panthers just kind of charging in. KV-2 with no support does not have any chances in hell against two Panthers. Even if it was in firing positions, one-on-one with a Panther, it would struggle. So of course, moving against two Panthers, not gonna work. However, the Panthers might get satchel charged, which could be pretty bad for them. Let's see if the satchel charge is gonna go on the other one. Ooh, that was a very huge amount of damage, but the second satchel charge does not come through on the other Panther. However, this is a mistake. He's selecting both of them and moving both of them at once. What you should do in this situation is actually, take the healthy one, just select that, and move it back on a singular move order. Because what it's doing right now is that the two vehicles are being moved together, so they get into their line, right? And since this one kind of unfortunately happened to be in front with that damaged engine, he's slowing the other one. Whereas what would happen if the second one were given an individual moving order is that it would find the quickest path to the destination, and so it would path around the wounded panther and then resume moving at full speed. As it stands right now, because of that, the damage engine on the first panther is actually kind of working against both of them. So that's not the best for our Axis player, Mr. Bobo. And Bobo is gonna definitely pay for it if these Su-76s continue chasing. There goes one of the Panthers. The other Panther is in a pretty bad position right now. It's being kind of saved by the buses. And also, very nicely, using the Volksgrenadiers, rerouting them in the moment of need, taking them out. Oh, that's unfortunate. Satchel Charge goes in and destroys the Panther. There's also a Jagdpanzer from Bobo. I think that this is a mistake. I mean, why would you need a Jagdpanzer for in this situation? I mean, I feel like, okay, so you've just taken out a KV-2. You've taken out a Firefly. Your allies, I mean, you maybe don't know, but they've taken out some UZ-8s, and they've taken out a crap load of Su-76s, although, I mean, right now Bobo should definitely know that those Su-76s are dead, because, I mean, he helped kill them. He had his Panthers there. So overall, why would you go for an anti-vehicle unit that's even more anti-vehicle than a Panther? I mean, like, I kind of understand going for Panthers because it's like, yeah, it's got better armor than the P4, it's got better mobility, so you can count on the Panther surviving more than the P4. So even if you're looking for a more anti-infantry unit, you might just want to go for the Panther, upgraded with, you know, a machine gun or two. Oh, that's why. Okay. So he wanted to go for the combination with the KT. Still think that's a mistake. I still think he should have gone with the Panther as well. I mean, it's not like he's lacking for resources. He could have gone for a Panther. Yeah, he could have definitely gone for a Panther. But, oh well. He might have been wanting to get some kind of interesting PopCap combination, but I'm not sure. Yeah, still, I mean, the KT is going to be pretty much what seals the game. I don't really see any unit on the Allied side can actually deal with the KT. Except for the combination of the AT guns from Napasaran. Of course, they have two ZES guns, and his tank destroyer, of course, Su-76 and a Su-85. That can definitely deal with KT if the KT is sufficiently unsupported. However, Napasaran is the only one that's got that kind of a force. I mean, Dreamer doesn't have anything. Vault has a couple of M4A3s, but he's basically focused on the other side. He's got problems of his own to deal with. He's got a you know, Elephant and a, you know, other Panther, a couple more Panthers on this side, and another KT on this side from Asteron. So overall, yeah, he's got a lot of things to deal with that do not really concern Bobo's KT. And of course, a blue deck doesn't really have anything. So yeah, this is gonna be the end. I'm pretty sure. I'm calling it. There's gonna be another blob fight on the western flank. I mean, this is just, oh my god. We're gonna have an awesome Panzerfer barrage. Coney so OP. I think he means King Tiger so OP. I don't know. Yeah, Königstiger. Yeah, probably. Now see, because that in Russian means horses. Koni. So I'm like, horses so OP? What? But no, I think he just means the KT. And no, it's not OP. I mean, you know, one Su-85, one Su-76, especially with veterancy, and then two 76s. There's these free guns. It can definitely deal with a KT. So, I mean, it's not really anything to worry about. But really, the big problem for him is that his ally just got completely obliterated earlier on. But, oh well. And here comes another Panzer from Luciano Faretra. Almost read Luciano Ferrara, who is a, like, I guess TV, you could say TV personality in Italy. Yeah, so almost read that. Kind of retarded. Anyway, yeah, the Stuka definitely paid for itself in this game. 62 kills. Actually, somehow the S2 managed to break through the Axis on the left side. So this is going to be the last kind of interesting fight. We have a Panther coming in for the S2. S2, of course, taking some nasty Panzerfaust from the rear. And the S2, this is again kind of a mistake with how people use the S2. The people think that the S2 is like a breakthrough tank because it's like, oh, it even says that, right? S2 heavy tank. No, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure it says S2 breakthrough tank somewhere. Anyway, this isn't a breakthrough tank. You don't send it in first. This is a sniper, actually, because its reload rate and turret movement speed are both very low. So it's not something like, I guess you could say, I mean, you could say the closest thing to that would be a Tiger or a KT. I mean, the KT also has some pretty low turret rotation rates, but it's got the armor to deal with it. Also, that's incredible. Yeah, he's going to be able to repair that. Not good. Yeah. But, of course, the... Oh, the elephant came in. That was a good snipe. Good snipe from the elephant. Quick reactions from Pussy Tank, taking it out. Very, very, very nice with the elephant. So I enjoyed that very, very much. However, what I wanted to say is that S2 just has such very, very low reload rate. Very low reload speed and, of course, turret rotation as well. And also its accuracy isn't good. It's very much RNG reliant. So if you're at close range, like the thinking is, right? So okay, take a tank with a turret, right? So if you're at closer ranges, if the enemy moves just this distance, right? Let's call it 10 meters. I'm not sure, 10 units, okay? You're gonna have to turn your gun about 45 degrees, you know, to keep up with them. Whereas if you're at long range, they move the same distance, you're going to have to turn your gun maybe 25 degrees to still have them in your sight and fire at them. So what happens is, if you're at long range and you miss with the S2, it's like whatever. He tries to reposition, you can still follow him, especially if you use your tank's hull to move along and speed the turret rotation up. Oh, well, of course, you know, keeping frontal armor facing the enemy. So you're going to get a second chance at a shot more quickly. Also, the S2 is a heavy tank. It's got very heavy armor, about as heavy as the KT. So the armor on the S2 is actually excellent. It's one of the heaviest in the game. So if you keep it at longer ranges, enemies are, of course, going to have a lesser chances of actually penetrating you. So you're both safer when it comes to protection, and you're going to have a higher capacity of hurting the enemy. Even though, you know, it may seem weirder because it's like they're farther away, so your accuracy is lower. But no, you're going to get more shots in, so you're going to be hitting more shots. Whereas if you're moving your S2 very, very close to the enemy, yeah, the enemy is going to have an easier chance of penetrating your frontal armor, an easier time doing that, and then your S2 is also not going to be able to keep up with its turret about as much. Now, this is also true for the KT, although to a lesser degree, because the KT just kind of has a better gun than the S2. And it doesn't have just the sheer potential of wiping out squads, because the S2, if it gets a good shot in, if the RNGesus, or I guess the RN Stalin, is in its favor, I mean, it's going to wipe out a squad and without really too much of a problem. Whereas the KT, it's more like, it's sometimes going to wipe squads, but not as frequently as the S2. But what it gets in return is that it's going to hit a lot more rounds and so do more consistent damage. It's also, of course, more expensive, so that kind of explains why it's more consistent. And overall, it's got the same armor as the S2, so it's not like you're going to be safer charging in the KT, although I feel like the KT has more HP. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. Should have to check, but I don't really want to, so fuck you. Yeah, Sherman Firefly, yeah, not that great. Anyway, yeah, overall, that's just kind of basics for every heavy tank, although the KT and the Tiger, I mean, they're kind of the two heavy tanks that can deal with that a little bit more, because while the Pershing has pretty good turret rotation and can overall be quite versatile, and of course it has a very, very high speed, so if it gets into trouble, it's going to be able to run away a little bit quicker. Yeah, the problem with the Pershing is just that it's got low HP and low armor, so that's not good, and they're going to surrender. So overall, what I feel like the Allies did absolutely wrong was just blobbing way too much. Some of them played well with their vehicles, some of them didn't, but overall they blobbed in way too much. They didn't go for any artillery, and so they just kind of were sitting ducks for the Axis artillery. Then the Axis were just able to spam Panthers and the overall the Allied tanks, because I mean there wasn't Allied infantry, so they could just spam Panthers. And overall, yeah, that's about it. So I want to thank y'all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.